Hello, hope y'all are doing well. It's February 18th. Today I'm back. Today I'm going to be talking about many things. We'll be talking about a pretty significant upcoming winter storm for areas in the north central U.S. and into the areas of the upper Midwest and also into the Northeast. And I'm going to be talking about the severe weather side of things, also associated with that storm system. Let's go ahead and get started. So currently, right now, I mean, it's pretty quiet across most of the U.S. Nothing really too significant ongoing. But then as we get into tomorrow, I mean, no major changes. The West is a little unsettled in some portions of the West, as you can see right there. But nothing that's really too big of a deal. As we get into Monday, we can see get a little more active. We can see we have a little bit of a clipper system affect areas of northern Minnesota, and another system affect areas of the Northeast with some rain and some interior snowfall. Uh, And then as we go into Tuesday, this is when everything starts to get active. So Tuesday afternoon, we see this first kind of onset of some snowfall moving into areas in North Dakota, South Dakota, and even into Minnesota, maybe also northern Iowa. Uh, and then continues throughout Tuesday night, also extending east, beginning to extend east with some wind as well. We could be seeing some blowing snow with some wind also beginning over into areas of Wisconsin, Michigan. Uh, and this continues Wednesday. We can see the storm system, maybe a little bit of a break in like the Minnesota, Wisconsin area, but then we see the storm system really get going. And even another one, but right behind that, which is going to be enhancing snowfall over a pretty wide area. We're also starting to see some wintry precip over in the Northeast as well. But just a mess of snow and wind across areas of Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, Montana. And most of the West is just going to be cold. And also, at the same time, we're going to be looking at record temperatures across much of the South. And could be seeing some very insane records that, regarding just extremely warm temperatures this time of year in the Southeast. Uh, in some areas, potentially even getting warmer than, or in some areas also maybe getting close to what we saw in 2018. So not looking like winter's actually gonna come to the southeast or come back because I mean it's been gone since the end of December. But yeah, so we can see all that snow. That's Wednesday afternoon, and then as we go into Wednesday night, we can see this low and the second low really gets going. We can see maybe an icing event across areas of southern Michigan. We'll take a look at the European in just a second, also, so we can see if that's more likely. We also have some very cold air getting pushed down in the backside of this. But just a lot of snow, still heavy snow ongoing maybe across many of these areas. Just a messy ice event too on that, like in between the snow and the rain. We can see a mess of sleet across the Northeast. And then still snowing in Minnesota or Thursday afternoon. And then it does move out by Thursday night, and Friday is a peaceful day before another storm system potentially next weekend, which it's we're not going to talk about that really today, so I don't want to make the video too long, but good chance that it actually happens. I was looking a little closer here. Actually, let's go ahead and go over to the European. We'll get a little bit of a better idea here. So this is the 18Z Euro. So there we go. First clipper right there, bringing some snowfall to areas like northern and central Minnesota, North Dakota, northern Wisconsin, and that first wave of snow coming in Tuesday evening. In the Minnesota, Minneapolis, areas of eastern South Dakota, especially northeastern South Dakota, and that's still there Wednesday morning. But moving over we'll talk about east in just a second, which we have to go back to the 12Z run. And we can see just that mess, especially Wednesday night into Thursday. We just see a mess in the Minneapolis area, northern Iowa, South Dakota, northeast Nebraska, and then icing down across central Iowa, even into maybe like the Omaha metro area. And then as you go further east here, we can see that snow moves in. The first snow kind of moves in Wednesday or Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, followed by maybe a significant icing event. Definitely Wednesday evening. We're looking at a lot of freezing rain indicated on the European here. But still, there's a wintry mess across many areas. Total snowfall accumulations, we'll talk about that now. So total snowfall, I wouldn't really want to focus on the numbers, just where we see everything. I mean, we could be looking at a lot of snow, just to say that. One of the biggest snowfalls we've seen definitely in a while in some of these places. Minneapolis, you can see the European gives you, 2 feet of snow pretty much. Rochester about a foot and a half. A lot of Wisconsin just gets dumped on from this. And then take a look at total freezing rain accumulations. But we can see that is really that axis right there is really over southern Minnesota, central Wisconsin, into northern Michigan. But I mean, it's a very big area. It's going to be seeing a lot of snow from this. Freezing rain totals, we can see, I mean, a lot of freezing rain, like half an inch to an inch of freezing rain in some places. So the very, very significant. The GFS, we'll take a look at the GFS. The latest run of the GFS is very similar. Like, this is not good. Much of like the Illinois-Wisconsin border picking up a quarter inch of ice to maybe like 4/10 of an inch. Also extending over into Iowa with a little bit of like some icing. But then southern Michigan just gets slammed with ice on both the GFS and the Euro. So I'm really hoping this will kind of downtrend a little bit, but because this will be affecting some very important areas, like some of the biggest cities in Michigan, if that does happen. So that would be an issue for sure. And now the GFS, or this is the GFS for snowfall is very similar to the European. 2 feet in Minneapolis. I mean, like oddly similar. I mean, this is very, like, the axis is right about there where we see the heaviest snow. Although a little bit more across like UP and Michigan and northern Wisconsin, definitely. And then back over to the west. We take a look at this real quick. And yeah, I mean that's a lot of snow. We're gonna be looking at. Like all of South Dakota gets more than 6 inches, but most of South Dakota gets more than a foot, other than like the tip of southeast South Dakota. I mean, this is insane. A lot of snow. We take a look at like the wind gust swaths with this as well. We could be, I mean, while this is happening, we could be looking at wind gusts like up to about 40, 45 in some areas. Wouldn't be surprised. So definitely think we'll see some blizzard warnings issued. There's a good chance of that, in my opinion. But like total snowfall, you can see very significant there. We go over to the GFS just for comparison, and it actually agrees with the European on that one weird pocket right there of a ton of snow in southwest Minnesota. Is pretty interesting. But yeah, so a lot of snow on both of these models, just across. Like, this is such a big area too, which is just, it's very weird to see this big of an area seeing this much snow. Total freezing rain in this area is not much. This is more of a snow event in the further west areas. Now, if we go over to the northeast here, and yeah, so the northeast, we could be looking at some wintry weather as well with this. So we see like Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening, that precip moves in. Freezing rain across areas of PA, New York, and then it kind of shifts a little further north. But I mean, definitely we're going to be looking at some icing. Areas in New York, PA, a ton of sleet further north, and Maine could get a pretty decent winter storm out of this. The European, let's take a look at the European. See how similar it is to the GFS. Yeah, so that precip comes in Wednesday evening. A big icing event across New York as well. Very big icing event across New York. That'd be pretty big issue. And then a big snow event further north. Not as much sleet, but either way, this is going to be a very impactful system for the northeast as well. A lot of snow, as you can see here. I mean, some areas picking up about like almost 2 feet, about a foot and a half across areas of Maine, northern, like far northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and then freezing rain totals like half an inch of ice in some areas, even more, up to like 3/4 of an inch. The GFS, pretty similar, a little further south though, with that extent all the way into PA. But I mean, areas getting a half inch of ice in most of these places, so very significant. The GFS also has a lot of sleet, like areas getting like an inch of sleet, 3 inches of sleet even over into Ontario there. Wow. And then total snowfall off of the GFS is a little bit spread out more further north, but the same areas practically you get a lot of snow, other than this area here. Okay, well, this area here got less than the European, but it gets a lot more in the GFS, so we'll see. But definitely across this area here, we could be looking at likely a pretty significant winter storm for the northeast, snowfall-wise. And further south, definitely into these areas here, icing will be a big issue, big concern. Yeah. So the last thing I want to talk about, like regarding this, like the wintry side of things, before we go over to talk about severe weather, I want to talk about just the cold, because with this we're going to be seeing some pretty significant cold. Uh, Not significant, just some pretty. I mean, take a look at temperatures here. Okay, yeah. So very warm across the south. This is like Thursday. I mean, temperatures getting near 90 or like 85 in areas of southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, and Louisiana. I mean, definitely very warm also over in southern Texas there. But then look at how cold it is further north. We take a look at up in like Nebraska, teens. For most of the states, single digits. South Dakota and North Dakota areas are in the negatives. And then Friday morning, look at that cold. Look at that. I mean, the slam in, go right into Minnesota, right on the backside of all that snow. Negative 20 in some areas. I mean, negative 25. So even while the South is practically just burning for this time of year, it's still going to be pretty cold in the West and the Northern Plains, which is kind of how it continuously is. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of cold. Now you're not going to go into it in too much detail yet because this is pretty far out. So, but just kind of get an idea. And also, we're going to have a severe weather threat. We go back to the GFS. We can see Wednesday, very clear kind of system right there. We definitely have severe. I think we have a 15% as well. We go over to the SPC. I forgot to get the SPC pulled up here. Let me go ahead and do that. And we can see we have a nice circular 15% Wednesday from northeast Texas over into a good portion of Mississippi and southern half of Arkansas there. And so yeah, so Wednesday we see also something that would be interesting on the GFS, or on the GFS, something that is interesting on the GFS is we have this little short kind of really quick short wave that's right here. We go over to 500 millibar winds, and it's right there. So we can see that right there, and it's been kind of consistent with that. Now that we'd definitely be seeing a significant severe weather threat, just general severe weather, but also an enhanced tornado threat with that, for sure. And in fact, I want to actually zoom in on the south here to kind of get a little better look at the this area. Okay, yeah. So we see that quickly move into the mid Atlantic and kind of fall apart a little bit with more stuff behind it. But like we take a look at moisture, dew points. I mean, we have a lot of moisture. I mean, dews are already in the 60s Wednesday, and then I mean, just look at this Thursday. Look at this. I mean, could be a little. I don't know, because Thursday we just see this cold front just crashing into the south, kind of with this drier air. It doesn't look like a prime day for severe weather, to be honest, like for like tornadoes and that type of stuff. Mainly to me, it looks like if we see anything, it'd be far south. But really, I want to watch Wednesday though, and all the way from like mainly this area here, I'd say, for that severe weather potential. We take a look at. Also, I just want to take a look at something interesting. The wind gust swaths of this. Just look at that. We can clearly see we have like some type of like squall line or just enhanced area of significant wind, which the GFS has been consistent on that. Actually, go back to the 12Z, down a little bit of a downtrend from the 12Z to the 18Z, but still, nevertheless, some pretty significant winds with that in a very similar location as well. So we'll see if that kind of continues to stay there. That's actually not knots. That's my bad. This is miles per hour. So 60 miles per hour in a lot of areas. Last GFS was like 70s. Wow. Okay. But yeah, so I mean, could be looking at something in that area. I want to go over to pivotal weather, which I forgot to forgot to open pivotal weather. That's my bad. And look at the southeast here. So yeah, so Wednesday, we see that, yeah, definitely like some type of a squall line event. We just take a sounding in southeast Arkansas, and definitely pretty interesting environment, I'd say. We have, I mean, not a whole lot wrong with this sounding. The photo's a little off, I guess you could say, but I definitely think we're going to see some very interesting storms on Wednesday. To me, this doesn't really look like a winter type event. This looks, I mean, we have don't have a lot of instabilities that kind of looks at, but very interesting setup with just this like the Hodos kind of our shear just looks, everything looks weird. It just looks off. But this is interesting. You can clearly see that push, that shortwave push. Uh, like this what would probably be a squall line. If the GFS are actually to verify, although that's not, it could not be what we actually see. But yeah, so I mean, definitely going to be an interesting event for sure. That, and after that, I really think Wednesday is going to be our one major day to watch. But yes, that's pretty much all I got. Thank y'all for watching. We'll talk about that a little more either tomorrow or Monday. But yes, I hope you all have an excellent day tomorrow, and goodbye.